If you're a Kenyan and you think life is hard, then I have some bad news for you. Things are about to get really tough for Kenyans, especially from next year. Unless you are super rich with a very low cost of living, if you're single and you live in a rental, start thinking of how you're going to make lots of friends. Because after next year, August, you might have to move in with 4 of your friends to save on cost. Earlier this year, I did a video about the Kenyan debt situation and how it will affect us. And so far, everything I predicted is moving as planned. Even the president finally admitted that we are in for a rough ride and that we should brace for hard times ahead. If you're paying attention, then you might have noticed that the Kenya shillings has lost value against every currency, including countries like Uganda and Tanzania. In that video, I talked about the 300 billion Eurobond repayment and the possibility of a default. But this week we saw the numbers and the situation is even worse because it's now 500 billion. Long story short, lazima tutafute kwenye tenda tuokote 500 billion by next year June, otherwise we are screwed. Things are already hard for Kenyans as it is, and I don't see where we can come up with an extra 500 billion. So what does this mean for the common mwananchi? You're going to see less and less money in your pocket, but the price of everything around you is going to keep going higher and higher. If you don't have a job, your chances of getting one just reduced drastically, and if you have a job and you're replaceable at work, then there's a high probability you won't be working next year. If you're wise, you should start accepting the situation and start thinking of how you can survive. Many people think this is something that is temporary and they're hoping for a solution in the near future. But sadly, this is the new normal. Things are going to get worse and it's going to take us at least 5 to 10 years to recover. Kama unategemea stima, expect massive blackouts to be the new normal. And if you depend on any government services, then expect service provision to get worse and worse. If you depend on any medication, anza kustockpile before next year ifike because hazitakuwa. And if zitakuwa, then expect to pay a premium for everything. If you have your savings in a bank, sacco or non-tangible investment, then expect to lose your money. You might not be able to withdraw your money when you need it the most, and even if you do, your money won't be able to buy the things that it used to buy. Yani in short, hata ukuwe na mbuzi ama ng'ombe ama kuku kuliko pesa kwa bank. If you have a piece of land that can provide food, anza kujifunza kulima because it's going to come in handy. If you have a piece of land and the ability ya kuondokea rent, anza kupanga hivyo mapema. And if you don't have one but you have the money, then plan on how you can acquire one, even if it means sharing. If you have a highly reliable fuel efficient car, it doesn't matter how old it is, bora iko in good condition. Those are about to skyrocket in price as people ditch their guzzlers. If you're currently living with someone to cut down on rent, someone kama mzazi, your sibling, shetani asikudanganye move out sahi. Anza kuja na mkate, work on that relationship because you're going to need it. If you're building your own place, do it while it's cheaper. Kama una uwezo nunua building materials, weka because they're about to double in price. Vitu kama mabati, mbao, nunua eka kwa store. Worst case scenario, utalipa fundi. If you're buying land, look for a bigger plot of tarmac. It's better to buy 2 plots of tarmac than a smaller piece of land karibu na tarmac. This is the main reason I bought a quarter acre parcel instead of a 50 by 100 ama 40 by 80 karibu na barabara. If you're planning to build a smaller house and use the rest of the land for something else because it's going to be cheaper to run and it's also going to be easier to sell when things start getting back to normal and you need the money for something else. You might also be able to generate extra income with the space you have left after building a smaller house. Wale watu wakujaza nyumba kwa plot na kabro na parking, I'll wait for you in my small house, mkwe mnakujia mboga na maziwa kwa gate kwa hii ekonomi ya Ruto. If you don't have emergency savings, anza kuweka sahi. Make sure you have enough to sustain you for at least 6 months to 1 year in case upoteze job. And kama kuna kitu ulikuwa umeplan kununua ukapostpone, look into buying it now because you might not be able to afford it tomorrow. And if you have something that you spent a lot of money on and the value is not justified, dispose of it now while you still can because you might not be able to sell it later. And if you bought a plot in Malindi, Nanyuki, Rumuruti and those areas, ka unaweza uza saizi. And if you bought land or a house in a place that is overpriced for speculation, pay you can get rid of it to use saizi. If you can study trends, then start looking into areas and things that people will run to and turn to when things get worse, and that's where you'll make your money. Na pia kama you can come up with solutions that are going to be of help your time yenye vitu zimecrash, congratulations because you're about to become rich. If you're the sole provider, you have a family na uko na productive land ushago, consider relocating familia huko, downsize and use the extra money to invest huko. You can use it to build a solid emergency plan in case of anything. And if you're a farmer who plants cash crops and your income is heavily dependent on government subsidies, start thinking of how you can replace that, make your money locally and stop depending on government subsidies na bonuses. And if you still believe in fantasies and hope the government is going to help you, then I'm so sorry for you. This is going to to be one of the most painful periods for Kenyans economically speaking, and I see lots of memes watu wakisema mafuta ifike hata 500 we are ready, and people making jokes and memes about the current situation, but sadly this is happening and we are here, and fuel is going to go to 300, and hopefully once it gets to 400 people will start seeing the seriousness of the situation, and maybe then they'll start taking things seriously.